So, a very good morning, ma'am, and thank you so much for giving us your time. Welcome to IC Tales. So, let's start with the interview. Could you
Thank
please?
you for having me here, Juhika. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you. So, could you please tell us about yourself? Like, where are you from and your educational background?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Saumya. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm based out of Noida, India at the moment. I'm also a meditation teacher. To just give you a little bit about my background, I'm originally not from Delhi. I come from this place called Jabalpur in Madhya Pradesh. But I moved to Delhi for my education. So I went to LSR, Delhi University. And then ever since I've just been in Delhi. I also work as an educator during the day. So during the day, I work with adolescents. I teach them psychology. And during the evenings, I have my private practice. So that's a little bit about myself.
Psychology fascinates me a lot because I had psychology in my school, like in 11th, 12th, and this is the only subject that fascinates me a lot.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It's pretty amusing.
yes. So it's like I keep on reading about psychology and books. So then I converted it the power of your subconscious mind. There's this book.
Joseph Murphy.
Yes. So
Yeah,
I read this book for 5 times.
yeah. And
Yeah,
do you think it's helped you?
yeah, it actually helped me in various ways. Like every time I read this book, there's something new that comes up to me, and I'm like, I have to do this.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Yeah.
there's this slight technique the where we are in this sleep state, and then we are asking
Hmm.
something to the subconscious mind.
Hmm.
So I think I'm not able to properly put this technique into my uh, routine because
Hmm.
I have done this thrice wherein
Hmm.
I got the answer twice, but now when I
Um,
apply it, it's like
hmm.
I'm not able to get the accurate answer somewhere or the other.
Hmm. Hmm.
You have to guide
Yeah,
me in this.
I will. Absolutely. Would you like for me to guide you now? Maybe later, post the interview.
Maybe later because let's
Maybe
continue
later.
this
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
because this is something quite interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about this.
So, could you please tell us about your childhood and what drove you towards psychotherapy?
Absolutely. So, how I got into psychology was when I think when I was in grade 7 or grade 8 is when I started reading these health columns that would come in newspapers. So there was something known as Sunday Times that would come. There was a magazine known as Prevention. There was Reader's Digest. And I would always find myself drawn towards the sections about health and prevention and mental health and things like that. So my journey in the field of psychology started with this question of who is this person? I wanted to understand and learn more about who I am really. And that journey is still continuing. I think it'll go on for a lifetime. But
Yeah.
that's how my journey started. And the more I started learning about the human mind, the more I started learning about other people, I realized that this is something that I want to do. And then psychotherapy happened because I find stories of people very intriguing. I find people very intriguing. And, with all their complexities, with all the nuances, the good and the bad, all of it interests me a lot. And every time I feel like when I go into a session with a client, of course, there's a journey that is happening for them, but there's so much learning that's also happening for me. And that's how my private practice into psychotherapy started.
You are so calm and composed. Like when you're talking, it seems like I am already listening to an audiobook.
Oh, wow.
How come you have this calmness in your nature and in your voice?
The trick is meditation. I am
Yeah.
such a big proponent, Juhika. I can't pick. If you get me started in talking about meditation, I think it's something that I would recommend to every single person out there, especially at a young age. If you start off young, it can make a really big difference.
Please teach me how to meditate because I'm still, this is the second thing which I am finding how to do it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Do
absolutely.
teach me. This is the second thing I'm noting it down. Second thing
Yes,
you have
please.
to teach.
Yes, please. I would love to.
So, what do you consider to be your top three strengths and weaknesses as a therapist?
Mm. I think very interesting question. My first top strength that I would consider would be, and that comes through my meditation practice, is that when I'm with a student or when I'm with a client, I have now trained myself to be completely present in that space, which means that I am constantly training myself to listen without biases, to listen without judgments, and to connect with you at a human level. So that I would consider to be one strength. Another strength would be that I think that I have a friendly relationship with emotions,
Yes.
mine and yours. And so when in a therapeutic space, sometimes when my client is struggling with figuring out what is it that they might be feeling, I'm able to tune into make an informed guess about what might be happening within. And that seems to really facilitate the journey. And the third, and this I think is the most important. Are you feeling okay?
Yeah, just a little
Yeah.
bit.
Do you want some more water? Yeah.
No, you continue, please.
Okay. All right. So the third, I think, is that I love this work. I absolutely love moving into sessions. I love reading more about cases. And I think because I'm so curious about the field, I'm so curious about human stories, that's what keeps me going. So I would consider that as well to be a strength. When it comes to weaknesses, I don't like to call it that. I like to call it an area of improvement, because that suddenly shifts your mindset. That's what I teach my clients as well, that we'll call it an area of improvement. For me, one that comes to mind right now is that I would definitely like to get better with my documentation, which is after the session is done, I'd like to sit down and write about it, which is something I'm not very regular with at the moment, but that's definitely something that I want to work on. And then, of course, it's a constant journey. Like therapy sometimes can be such an invisible field of work, because the changes that are happening are so small and so gradual that I have to learn to be more patient with myself as a therapist if I can't see those tangible changes. So I'd say those two would be what I'm working on at the moment.
So I have this question coming up right now. Uh,
Yeah.
is it like, would you suggest that a person, not exactly a therapist, but the client,
Mm.
would document his or her own day, like to maintain a journal, and how he can maintain a journal, like what should be included in that?
Wonderful. I think journaling is such a powerful exercise for every client. In fact, it is something that I would often recommend to my clients as well. There are many different ways in which you can maintain a journal, Juhika, but how I like to go about it is I like to keep it very free flowing for people. So, what that means is that when you sit with your journal, this is your space. This is the space where you can write without any restrictions.
Yeah.
But what seems to help is set a time limit for yourself. So maybe you set about 15 minutes in the morning or 15 minutes in the evening where you just write without really thinking about what you're writing. And in that process, something known as catharsis starts happening, where you might not even be aware of the issues that were bothering you and they start flowing out. But one thing that you should not ideally be doing after writing a diary entry or a journal is don't read through the entire journal entry. If you've had some learning through your entry, you make a separate box and you note your learning down there. But the reason I recommend not going through your journal entry again is that if you've just poured something out, imagine pouring something out from one cup to another cup. The first cup being you, the second cup being the journal. You don't want to pour all the information back in. It's already fallen out.
Yeah.
So now you want to just take away whatever your important learnings were and let the rest stay with your diary. And that process can be very empowering.
Exactly. And actually, that I should try, need to try. So, is it really necessary that the journal entry that you are that you are suggesting and one should maintain have
Mm,
those affirmations that like what he wants to become in the coming future, or it's
mm,
just expressing your feelings to
mm.
the diary, which is not judging you in a way?
So these are two different kinds of entries. The first one that you're talking about is something known as future journaling, which is essentially you are envisioning who you would like to be. Extremely powerful technique,
Yes.
must be written in the present tense. Not that I will like to do this, but you actually imagine what would happen if you've achieved a certain something in your life. That is separate, that you are envisioning and visualizing a
Yeah.
future. The latter one is more about processing what is happening within. So this is more about it's almost like sitting down with a really close friend who's not going to judge you, and you're just expressing and releasing. Both have their own place, and it depends on what does your mind really need on a particular day. Are you in the mood of planning, or are you in the mood of just processing what's happening within?
So here, this is the last question related to this.
Yeah, go ahead, go right ahead.
So the first part that I talked about, the affirmations part, that what exactly, like for example, if I'm writing it, that and I'm visualizing the same thing, that by September starting, I want to have this perfect body. Like I want to have a body like Sara Ali Khan, for example, and I want the best opportunity coming up for me. If I'm writing this in a present tense, and how effective it will be, like is it really going to, I mean, definitely the other part would be me working on my goals, me working out daily, eating healthy and other stuff that is related to the body. And also I'm writing those affirmations daily, that I have to achieve this body by September. So is it really effective for me achieving my goal by the set target? Is it effectful?
Yeah, so there are two sides to this. So the first thing that I would invite you to do is that instead of saying that I have to or I want to have a body like this by whatever time, you rephrase it and you write something like, let's say by August 1, 2022, I am, and then you describe what are you really like. So this is how you bring it to the present tense instead of I want, because one is a desire and the other one is I'm already this. So your mind and your body starts preparing yourself for it. And then there are two different things that happen. So one, if we talk about it purely from a goal oriented point of view, if you start imagining yourself to be a certain weight, a certain body type, you will start taking the necessary action. So you might start eating clean, you might start exercising, you might become more mindful of your sleeping patterns, etc. But there is a mystical element also to this, which I do not understand, but I have experienced it in my life. Okay. So when you start using affirmations, and this is what the great masters of the East have to say, that there is a certain energetic component to the words and your thoughts. And so you will start receiving support in some form to get to your goals. How does it really happen? I don't understand the mechanics of it, but does it happen? For sure. And that is why visualization or the subconscious mind are spoken about so highly in the world.
One more thing you need to actually make me learn is
absolutely, I'd love to do that. Yeah.
So how did you come up with your Instagram ID, that is Dhanya with Saumya?
Yeah, so it's pronounced Dhyana. Dhyana comes from the Hindi word dhyan, which stands for meditation. And the with Saumya is essentially symbolic, because every time I work with a client, my endeavor is to walk alongside you. So you are taking your journey, but I'm walking alongside you as a facilitator or as a guide. So that's how the name came about. But the vision behind the page was to make, or is to make, mental health accessible, to help people create a holistic experience of health within themselves by using knowledge from the West and by using wisdom from the East.
Hello.
Because
Yeah.
Hi.
Actually, what happened was when you were saying this, for 1 second you got mute.
Oh, okay. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you, but for the 1 second you got mute. So the
Okay,
voice
should I start again?
No, just start from the vision part, please.
Okay, all right. So the vision behind the page is to make mental health accessible for everyone and easy to understand. I think we're in a time in our world where we are beginning to understand what mental health is, but we are still a little bit away from it. So my idea is to make it simple and to put you in the driver's seat, essentially. So prevention is a big part of what I talk about on the page. Holistic health is a big part of what I talk about. I bring in information from the West, I bring in wisdom from the East, combine the two and help you take charge of your mental health, and just have these simple tips that you can start using every day to start improving how you're feeling on the inside.
So
That's how the
basically,
page happened.
you are being sorry. If I could put it in one sentence, you
Yeah.
are playing a role of a universe who is actually helping people uh, consciously or subconsciously to be more aware about their mental state and to improve on a daily basis. Because
Wow. Yeah,
for me, you
absolutely.
are a complete universe. Like universe is actually helping me or guiding me to be a better person each day.
Oh, wow. That is so flattering. I'm so honored. I definitely wouldn't use the word universe for myself. I'd just call myself uh, like a guide or a facilitator who's walking alongside you. There's a lot of guidance that I receive as well, and I'd like to just pass it along. That's what my role is. Thank you for letting me walk alongside you.
Actually, what happens is if someone says me I am this or that person in his or her life, definitely I wouldn't be agreeing to it because I am like as you say, you are just walking along with the persons. So same goes with me. But when you look at the other person's perspective, the changes you are bringing in his or her life, he will definitely think that okay, universe is definitely helping me in a way that he has sent an angel towards me of helping me in various aspects of life.
That is so kind. That is so kind. And that is so reaffirming. It reminds me of why I choose to do what I do every day.
You please stay in touch with me.
Absolutely. We spoke about this earlier also. We're absolutely staying in touch.
We spoke.
Yeah. Just on the message.
Okay.
You know, when you,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
I only, I'm so much occupied with things. So I only remember the deep breathing technique. I only
Yeah.
kept out of my mind.
Good. Good. That's a good thing to remember.
So, how could psychotherapy benefit well-adjusted individuals?
Great question, Juhika. I'm glad you're asking this because there's this big myth that exists that people only who are struggling with a mental
Yeah.
health disorder would walk in for therapy. But therapy is really for anyone and everyone who identifies as a human being. And how a well adjusted person would benefit from therapy. And I have many people who walk in like that. Who you are and who you would like to be could be two different things. So maybe you are anyway in a place in life where you're feeling quite good about yourself, but you have all of these other things that you would like to achieve. So you would want to grow as a person. And a therapist can help you in that journey of growth. Even as a well adjusted individual, it's okay and expected of you to go through certain challenges in life. You might be going through relationship challenges, or you might be going through a job change, or maybe none of that, but you just want to come into this space to learn more about yourself. So, therapy is really your space. And what you choose to do with it depends on what your goals and what your needs are. And a good therapist will help facilitate that journey for you. So, big proponent of therapy. I think everyone should at least try it once in their lives.
At least I should try because
Absolutely.
there are times when I am in a good space, everything
Mm,
is perfect with me, everything is in an aligned manner, but then but still there is some way in a some way I feel very anxious about things. I'm very
mm,
tensed about, if I could use a proper tensed, I take stress very easily about things that are
mm,
already planned and are happening in that way, but still I
mm,
come up like अगर ये नहीं हुआ तो, अगर ऐसा नहीं
mm,
हुआ तो, every time this
mm,
comes up.
mm. Yeah, seeking therapy might be a good idea. It's a, Joika, it's a little bit like you can either choose to go to the doctor when you've fallen really sick,
Yeah.
or you can choose to visit a health facility. Like you may choose to start going to a gym, you may choose to start doing other things to take care of your physical health so that when you fall sick, you're able to bounce back quickly. The same is the case with going for therapy. Even when you're feeling well, you learn so much about yourself that when a big challenge shows up, you already have the tools that you need to cope with it in a better way.
Yeah, actually. You know, while having this conversation with you, it's more like I am getting more convinced. Why should I go to a therapist for small stuffs for now?
Yeah. Mm,
Like I have the small stuffs for now, but
mm.
I'm getting more of convinced why I
I'm
should
glad.
be taking a step ahead.
Yay, good for the therapy fraternity. I'm glad.
Could you please give us some tips on how can one befriend their mind and emotions?
Great question. That's I see that you've read my Instagram bio. That's
Very
exactly what I've
nice.
written. That I teach you how to befriend your mind and emotions. I think the one tip that I would give is acknowledge. Acknowledge that you have a mind which is sometimes at peace and sometimes not so much at peace. You have emotions which are sometimes pleasant, sometimes not so pleasant. But no matter where you are, it's okay for you to have whatever experience you're having. We can only befriend something when we stop feeling afraid of the darkness that can come with it. So when I talk about befriending your mind and befriending your emotions, it's more about learning to sit with yourself and look within and recognize, what am I really feeling in this moment? What is my mind really saying to me? And even if what I'm feeling or what it's saying to me is not very pleasant, can I still choose to be present with myself and support myself in this journey? So this means when I'm feeling sad, I don't distract myself with a Netflix. I don't immediately go to my fridge and eat that big bucket of ice cream, but I choose to nurture myself in that moment. Where is this sadness showing up from? What can I do to take care of myself when I'm feeling this way? What can I do when anxious thoughts show up? So it's about recognizing that your mind and your emotions are there for you to support you, and you need to start listening to what's happening, both the good and the bad.
And what in case of if someone is actually very angry?
Mm.
How you can befriend your emotions and mind separately in that case?
When you're feeling very angry, you have to understand that every emotion comes up because it's a messenger of a kind. It's trying to tell you something. Anger usually comes up when you feel like something that has been done to you or something that has been done to a loved one is not fair, and you're upset about that situation and you would like to change that situation. So anger is asking you to be more in control of whatever is going on and to sort of fix what is happening in that moment, or to stand up for yourself. It's trying to give you a message. Listen to what it's telling you. Take a step back from the anger. So, two things can happen. When you let anger consume you completely, you might react, you might yell, you might scream, right? If you want to be more in control and you want to give a more constructive response, listen to that emotion completely. Let it overtake you for a couple of minutes and then step back and then decide, how would you like to respond in this situation? Not react, but respond. But don't try to suppress your anger. It's showing up for a reason. So listen. And the moment you start listening is when you start to gain your control and your power back. But it's not a bad emotion to have. It's an important emotion to have.
Yeah. So whenever anger comes, and whenever I just personally, so there are times when I try to listen to what is coming from inside during that
Mm,
state of anger. So
mm,
that times I only got questions. Why the
mm,
person, for example, if I could take an example of college, like uh,
mm,
there's this one of my colleague who only calls when she needs some help from me. And
mm,
here I am like, okay, I am happy if everyone is calling me for a help, that I'm capable of doing that help. So that's why they're contacting me, and that's completely
mm,
fine. But
mm,
there is one person who always comes up with her benefit. But when I
mm.
ask, because I too need sometimes and help, so
Of course.
whenever I call her, or just put a text, that text never goes on scene for 5 days or six
Mm,
days. The calls are never answered, but whenever she's calling, she's assuming that I should pick immediately. Whether
mm,
I am taking an interview or doing my personal stuff or other activity which is at the moment important. So if I
mm,
don't pick up the call, she'll text. She continues to behave in a manner that I get angry. So
mm,
whenever I started to question myself, what is the reason behind my angry? It's her behavior, not yours. You can't
correct.
you can't control anyone's nature. So why are
Mm,
you getting angry? So every time,
mm,
instead of getting something, I got a question: why people are misusing me? Am I
mm,
that vulnerable, or am
mm.
I that stupid that people come, use you, and go away? So these are some questions that always comes up, but I never got
Mm.
the answer to it.
So here's what seems to be happening, Juhika. Your anger is showing up because internally you recognize that the situation is unfair. You recognize that you're being taken advantage of. It is an unfair, imbalanced situation, right? So your anger is showing up not to make you feel bad about yourself. Maybe it's asking you to set some boundaries with people. So people that you think are constantly taking advantage, your anger wants you to tell them that this is not all right, it has to be an equal partnership. So maybe what is needed here is not sorry, 1 second, Joika.
Yes.
Yeah, I got a call and that my Mac and my iPhone are connected, so it just took me off the screen. Yeah. So what I was saying was that maybe your anger is not showing up to belittle you or to make you feel like you're so gullible that people are taking advantage. It's trying to tell you the opposite, that Johika, it's time to set firm boundaries with certain people who are not forming an equal relationship with you. It's asking you to speak up for yourself.
Yeah, so whenever I try, okay, just not, no, I have not think that way in a
Yeah.
way, but whenever because it's like when I'm at my home, my phone
Hmm.
is most of the time on speaker because I'm
Hmm.
always constantly doing something with my laptop. So
Hmm.
so it sometimes be a bit difficult for me to keep the phone on next to my ears and do the work.
Correct. Hmm.
What happens at that moment is my phone is on speaker, my mother listens to all the conversations, and she guided me the same, that
Hmm.
this person is not helping you, either
Hmm.
she's not helping you in a way when you needed it. So
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
make a certain distance from her,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
whenever she calls, revert back later, but in a very polite manner. Don't reveal all the informations.
Hmm. Hmm.
So whenever I try, communicating in a very lesser manner, so
Hmm.
what I return, what I hear in response is, you are rude, you're arrogant, your voice, because your voice is loud, it seems like you're shouting, which is
Hmm.
so here my when it comes to my voice, which is not the case because I am talking. This is my normal tone, and I'm talking
Hmm.
to you in a very friendly and a normal way, which I talk usually.
Hmm.
So here, I don't understand what should I do. You have changed. Okay, change is the only constant thing that we can, you know, that we have to accept it. But
Hmm.
how about my voice? I cannot change that. No.
Hmm.
How to
Hmm.
respond here in a certain way?
Hmm. So, see, Joika, you are setting a boundary with someone right now, right? You're trying to set some expectations.
Yeah.
The other person is not used to you being this way. So they are reacting. And they are also now reacting out of anger and trying to say things that are going to make you question your decision of setting this boundary. This is normal and expected. This is an expected reaction out of someone who was anyway pushing your boundaries to begin with. Their discomfort is not really your responsibility at this moment. So take your time to set that boundary. Let them handle their discomfort on their own, but you continue to do what is needed for you to take care of yourself.
Exactly.
Boundary setting is never easy, not for the person who's setting it and not for the person at the receiving end. It's and you will receive resistance a lot of times, but if you think that this particular relationship is harming you more than it is helping you, then it's also time for you to sit with yourself and figure out, why are you constantly allowing this other person to treat you this way? Why is her opinion or their opinion so important to you? And some answers you might receive there.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. for because usually I have never tried this way.
Mm.
I only keep on reacting very soon to
Yeah.
situations.
Mm.
So I'll take a step back here from here.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really okay to set boundaries with people. You have to do that in life sometimes.
Yeah.
Doesn't make you a bad person for wanting to take care of yourself.
People make this a taboo. When you start to take care of your mental health,
Yeah.
people start to say XYZ things
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
you and your work, whether you are doing good or whatever the case is. When you are on the right track, they'll say XYZ things about
Yeah.
you.
Change is uncomfortable, no? People like to stay the way they are. They expect people to stay the way they are. But if you're evolving, it's going to be a painful journey for yourself and for other people. That's okay. It's a part of the journey.
A change, everyone has to change at some point of time, no? We cannot
Absolutely.
we cannot stay same through the whole life and expect miracles to be happening in our life.
Absolutely. And we shouldn't stay the same, no? It'll get so boring
It's
if
boring.
there's no growth. Yeah.
I started working out in the morning. So I
Yeah.
discovered, okay, this makes me more, I don't apply cosmetics on my face, but I like this
Yeah.
glowing skin.
Yeah, absolutely. I love working out in the morning. It's so good.
So even I started, okay, I said, my mom, chalo, gym chalte hain. So
Mm.
she goes on a walk. I do my
Mm.
complete 2.5 hours of gym.
Wow. Mm.
So, and after that, my skin is like, okay, and now it's
I feel
good.
good. Skin
I
feels good.
it's oxygen is coming now. Blood
Yeah.
circulation is
Yeah.
going. It's like okay, it's good.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
liking
glad.
it now.
Mm.
So, what is spiritual self care for you?
Hmm. Such a beautiful question. I like the questions that you've picked out because they're making me think. So, self care, there are two terms here. Self care is essentially learning to take care of yourself, something that we're not taught, especially as women. We are definitely not taught to take care of ourselves. It's seen as something that is selfish if you start taking care of yourself. But
Yes,
unless you take care of yourself, you can't really be available for another person. So that's one term that we need to understand. The word spiritual or spirituality could mean different things to different people. But how I like to define it, or I would like to define it in this space for us, is spiritual self care has to do with doing the things that make you feel at your best. So, there are certain things, activities that you might indulge in or participate in that make you feel alive from within. That's almost, there's a light that turns on inside and you feel like your most authentic self in those moments. And participating in those activities in on a routine or in a routinely basis, that is what I would consider as spiritual self-care. So in my case, I know that if I spend about 30 minutes on my yoga mat or I spend about half an hour meditating, my light bulb goes on the inside. Spending time with my plants, spending time with the children in my school, that makes me feel very alive. Taking a walk late in the night, spending time in nature in general is something that is very energizing for me. So for me, that would constitute spiritual self-care. But for a close friend of mine, it's his music that makes him feel alive. For another friend, it's her cooking that makes her feel alive. So for different people, different things could fall under spiritual self-care. So what I recommend doing is just figure out what are the things that make you feel most like yourself when you're not wearing all of these masks that we wear in the world, and what are the things that make you feel truly joyful on the inside, and start including those to take care of yourself.
exactly. Because here I can relate to you on like in a very bits and pieces, but I can relate to you like
Yeah.
listening to music and going for a walk in a
Yeah.
nature like late nights in a nature. I can actually relate to you here very much.
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually those little moments of the day when you are connecting to yourself and you feel like, okay, now I feel good, now I feel like I can just be. So when you experience these moments of just being, that's when you are in contact with what I would consider your spirit, if you believe in a spirit, that is. If not, that's okay. Just consider it being in touch with yourself.
I am being in more touch with this conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have been talking about about the emotional self care kit that you have
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, or that there's one post also on your Instagram. So could you
Yeah.
please tell more about it?
Yes, absolutely. So, an emotional self care kit or an emotional first aid kit is inspired from the idea of a first aid kit that we have at home. So, most of us as children knew कि अगर कहीं चोट लग जाएगी, if I get a knit or I get a cut or a nick, I have to go to my first aid kit. I will take out a band-aid and I will put it, and that's how I will feel better. Or if my head is hurting, this medicine I need. But we're not taught how to take care of what do I do when I'm hurting emotionally? What do I do when I'm feeling a certain way? So, an emotional first aid kit is, it can be an actual physical kit, which is something that I also have at home, which contains these little things, little reminders that you can do when you're hurting. So, for example, in my case, I have a tendency towards major depression. It runs in my family. I know it's a condition that I have to manage and take care of. So in my first aid kit, I have all of these different reminders of what do I need to do when I start feeling like the symptoms of depression are coming in. So for example, it has my vitamin D capsules inside it. So low levels of vitamin D can lead to an onset of depression. So I will always keep that there. I'll keep a reminder of having my spinach soup in the evening. So there's a little cutout of like a spinach. That's a reminder. I have my journal in there. I have contact numbers of all my friends that I can reach out to in case an episode is about to set in. So, when you're not feeling at your best, this kit is a reminder of this is what I can do to take care of myself. And everyone's kit is going to look a little bit different because everyone has a different way of handling their emotions. So it's more like a visual reminder because you can't see emotions. And so sometimes it can get difficult to in that moment figure out ki abhi kya karna hai when I'm feeling bad. But if you already have your kit ready, this is all the help that I can give to myself. It can also have numbers of your therapist, your doctors, your best friends, whatever you need. But it's a little bit like this is my support, immediate support when I need it.
What if you don't have a best friend?
It's okay to not have a best friend, but you can have close friends, or you can have other people like a family member. You can have a pet that really gives you support. You can have a plant at home that you go to when you feel like you're in need of some love. A lot of times I just go down to the park near my house and sit on Mother Earth because I take a lot of support from her when
Yeah.
I'm in need of support. So yeah.
No, when I'm just telling in general, what happens is when someone says, "Okay, I have this best friend or close friend with
Mm,
whom I can share anything and everything, and he or she is my support." So
mm,
I sometimes feel disconnected over there because I am that person who talks to everybody nicely, but I
mm,
am very bad at choosing friends.
mm,
Even if
mm,
I make one friend out of five, so that my friendship will be very good. Will start to become close friends, but then something will happen. Like for example, if 3 months we have been friends since 3 months, and
mm,
something will happen that a misunderstanding will be created or something will be there, and he or she will be started to making distance from me. I'm like, why
mm,
this is happening to me? I don't know. Even I try
mm,
to postmortem the situation that happens, but I never came out of conclusions. Even I did so much of
mm,
efforts to that. So how to make
mm.
friends? I'm still confused here.
Since you've identified a pattern, since this is something that seems to be happening, this could be something interesting that you could talk to about with your therapist, because your therapist here can then step in and help you with whatever. So this is essentially what is happening is a relationship rupture. Two
Yeah.
people share a relationship and there's some sort of a miscommunication, misunderstanding that has happened. With the help of a therapist, you can figure out how can you reconstruct the rupture that has happened, because this is normal in every relationship. Even with the closest of people in your life, you will have these times. But it It can be a skill to learn how to just rebuild this. So it's okay if that's happening at the moment. What's great is that you have recognized that this is something that may be happening, and now you can begin to work towards it.
I, if I work, but I don't get any response from the other side, then what to do then?
Then maybe there is a need to question, are you choosing the right people? A relationship is a give and take process. Are you
Yes.
choosing the right people to invest in? Are they willing to invest as much in you? And if not, then it could be a good idea to just look at the different relationships and friends you've chosen and see, are there other people that you can invest in who may be willing to, work as much towards a relationship.
Thank you for guiding.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Don't settle for breadcrumbs in relationships. Breadcrumbs, you know what breadcrumbs are?
Like in
Yeah.
general, in terms of, yeah, the small things
Yes.
that
Yeah.
makes that there's a solid, but it makes taste to the soup.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Breadcrumbs
was,
in relationships are when someone's just giving you a little bit and you're feeling very content with it, but you are giving them your entire loaf.
yes.
That's unequal. Yeah. So find people who may be willing to split that loaf with you. आधा तुम्हारा आधा मेरा. कभी कभी तुमने ज्यादा लिया, कभी कभी मैंने कम लिया, कभी मैंने ज्यादा लिया, कभी तुमने कम लिया. But that's how you find people who are willing to stick with you even when things are bad.
Perfect. Thank you. So in today's time, there are many people who overthink situations and stress
Yeah.
themselves. Like,
Yeah.
how can one deal with overthinking?
So I will go back to my standard response for this, and then I will give you some other responses also. Okay. So the best way, and this is now proven by research as well, to handle a situation like overthinking is by learning how to train your mind. And how do you train your mind? Just like you train your body by going into the gym, you lift weights, you do some cardio, you do some whatever, free weights and stuff like that. And slowly your body starts to get firmer, toned, stronger. And with time, you get stronger and healthier. With your mind also, you need to start training your mind. So you send your mind to a gym. How do you send your mind to a gym? You begin to start practicing meditation on a regular basis, just like you hit the gym on a regular basis, and you start practicing something known as mindfulness. And it's been found that people who practice meditation and mindfulness on a consistent basis they don't have as many thoughts. The number of automatic thoughts come down for them. And second, when they do have a lot of thoughts, they're able to create a distance from these thoughts don't impact them as much. So definitely try meditation. It's the best way to train your mind. Second is work with someone, preferably someone who specializes in working with thoughts and emotions. So you could look at working with a cognitive behavioral therapist who can help you to bring down your overthinking. The third would be, sometimes there can be certain medical conditions that can lead to situations of overthinking. For example, in depression, you tend to ruminate a lot. You tend to think about the past a lot. Why is that happening? Your serotonin levels have fallen down. It's a neurotransmitter. The chemical is lower. And so overthinking is happening. So get that ruled out. In anxiety, people tend to think a lot about the future. So again, there is an imbalance that's happening. So if it's a medical imbalance, that needs to be looked at. But so meditation, seeking the help of a therapist. You can also journal, and definitely looking at a medical consultation if you think it's making you dysfunctional. All that's happening is you're thinking all the time. There could be a medical reason for it as well.
Okay. Good aspects of overthinking.
Lots to think about overthinking, huh?
Lot for now. Yeah, there are various aspects to think upon. So, how do you deal with the stress that you have in your life?
Mhm. So as someone who works in the field of mental health, it is a challenging field to be in, because I'm constantly exposed to emotionally overwhelming information, or there's just a lot happening in the therapeutic space, right? So what becomes very important for me is to have techniques and strategies that I can use for my own self-care. So for me, the first hour of the morning is absolutely sacred, and so is the last hour of the day, which is my time to be doing the things where I take care of myself. I also see a therapist. So when I feel like there are challenging situations happening in life, I will go seek therapy. I do my yoga practice regularly, and I also take breaks often. So anytime I feel like either my body or my mind is feeling very stretched out, it's too much stress, too much tension is happening, I know it's time for me to now take a break, and it's okay to take breaks. So for example, right now I'm not active on social media. I needed that break for my system and my mind, so I took that break. So how I do this is just, again, what we spoke about, the spiritual self-care bit, the physical self-care bit, so working out regularly and being in touch with my own body, my mind, and my emotions, and knowing this is what I need to do to take care, this is how much rest I need, and honoring that about myself. So that's how.
So what do you, just a question, what do you do in your free time? Like, what do you do in your time when you took a break?
When I've taken a break, music. I love listening to music. I love to read. I spend a lot of time in my personal meditation practice because I find it to be a very healing experience. So I spend a lot of time with myself, but I also spend a lot of time with the people that I love. So this is the time where I would actively go out and create experiences with my friends. I might want to travel, just essentially things that I can do to feel more alive and more whole on the inside.
I mean, I should try taking breaks more often.
Yes, please do that. In fact, it's something that should be a part of your everyday routine and not just on weekends, or not just on अभी summer break आ गया तो अभी एक महीने का छुट्टी पर पूरे साल नहीं, because that's stretching yourself too much.
Yeah. And sometimes it tends like the 1 month of break makes it you more lazy when you're
Yeah,
again going back to the work.
yeah, yeah.
So as people come to you for therapy, there could be
Mm,
incidents that could be very overwhelming. As you just
mm,
said.
yeah.
So how do you deal with the same?
Mm, mm. So, one, this is the nature of my work. So there is recognition and acceptance within me that sometimes this can happen, and people are coming in because a lot of times they are going through something difficult. With practice, what does happen for a therapist is that you learn to be more objective about the situation, because unless I'm objective, I can't really support you. But despite that, sometimes people can come in with very overwhelming stories. And as a therapist, I might feel overwhelmed due to two main reasons. One is your story is so moving that something within me has completely moved, right? And I'm not quite sure how to support you. So in the first situation, I go to my supervisor. So I will go and seek help from a senior therapist to understand how can I help this human better? How do I support them in their journey? The second reason why I might feel overwhelmed is if something that you shared made a wound within me resurface. So if I start to see myself and my struggles in your story, I might feel overwhelmed. So this is a good time for me to go and seek my therapist, because something within me that is broken has shown up and now I need help. So depending on why I'm feeling overwhelmed, and that would require sitting with myself after a session and just paying attention to what happened, I choose what I need to do. Sometimes I don't need to do either. Sometimes I just need to spend some time with myself, uh, just taking care. So I like to dance after a very stressful session and just sort of shake that stress off my body, because I have to be present for other people as well. So I have to take care of myself. But I don't let the stress settle in the body. I will do what I need to take care in that moment.
Like any physical activity or mental activity that requires at that
Yeah.
particular moment.
Yeah.
So lastly, any tips you would on how one prioritize their mental health?
uh, Recognize that it's real. You can't see your mental health, but
Yes.
it's there. We're so used to just believing things that you can tangibly see, but start sitting with yourself to understand what is really happening within you. And if you need help, and when you need help, do not hesitate to reach out. You don't necessarily have to reach out to a talk therapist, which is someone that you talk to. There are many other forms of professionals who can help you. So there is dance movement therapy, there is mindfulness therapy, there is art therapy, there is clay therapy. Many number of things have come out now to help people with their mental health. But just recognize that it is a real thing. If you are struggling, it's okay for you to struggle. But once you've acknowledged that struggle for yourself, do not hesitate to reach out for help. That's what I'd say.
So here for you, mindfulness is basically controlling your thoughts or filtering the unnecessary thoughts.
It's neither. It's neither controlling nor filtering. It's about forming a relationship with your thoughts, which is not destructive, which is essentially learning to be present with whatever is happening in your mind, the good and the bad. And in that process, learning to be here in this moment. हमारे साथ क्या होता है जोहिका, most of us are either constantly thinking about the past or we are constantly thinking about the future. अभी क्या हो रहा है, we're not present here. When you start to be more mindful, you start to be more aware, you start to live your life in this moment. But in this moment, sometimes you can have difficult thoughts also. When you start this practice, you learn to create a distance from your thought, and then you learn, what do I want to do with it? Do I want to believe this thought, or do I want to maybe let this go and try something else in life?
Good my answer. And here we come to an end of the interview.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving us your time. It was a really, wonderful interview that I actually had.
I'm so glad. I hope that I was able to answer your questions and maybe add on some value to this space.
Yes, you actually, there was a one-to-one connect when
Yeah.
when we were having a conversation, and this happens very rare.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm
Happens
glad that
very rare
happened.
when I'm taking an interview.
Yeah. I'm glad you feel that way. I feel the same way. I'm really happy to have met you here, Juhika.